So let's take a look at what we need to cut for our Edgy Essence wallet. We need 2 body panel pieces. 1, 2, and you need to punch a hole, or if you've used a cutting machine like I have, I've used a scan and cut. The holes are cut for me. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but yep, they are cut. Now, an alternative of cutting 2 body panels separately and then gluing them together would be you could glue your cork or vinyl or leather, whatever, together first and then cut your body panels out. That way you'll have a perfectly nice even edge all the way around. And you'll need to cut 2 tabs and punch a hole, or if you've used a cutting machine, same story, the holes will be cut for you. 2 of those. Welts, you need to cut 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You need card slots A, 2 of. I've just added these. That's just there to when I clip it so that I don't leave marks in my cork. But you need to cut 2 card slots A. 1, 2. You need to cut 1 ID panel, cut out your window, or if you've used a cutting machine, it'll cut it out for you. But you need 1 of those. Card slots B upper, cut 2. Card slots B lower, cut just the 1. For the panel A, you either need to cut 2 or 3, depending on how thick your cork is and whether you're sewing on a domestic machine or a industrial, but I've provided instructions for what to use where in the pattern. But basically, if you're sewing on a domestic and you're using only a 0.8mm or 2 ounce cork or vinyl, leather, etc., you can cut 3 of these. But if you're using something thicker, only cut 2. Now for the zipper pocket, cut 1 and cut out your window, and if you use a cutting machine, that is done for you. You'll need to cut an ID pocket out of clear vinyl. I've cut 1, and that's all you need. And we have some layout guides in the pattern. They will come in mighty handy to help during construction, so make sure you have those cut out as well. So for constructing your Edgy Essence wallet, you're going to need a zipper. This is 16 centimeters or 6 1/4 inch long, and I've stitched on both ends 6mm 1/4 of an inch from the ends just to stop the pull from coming off and to stop the tape from coming apart. You'll need a snap. This is 12mm or 1/2 inch wide in size, and this one has 4 pieces, and I think they all have 4 pieces. That's one here, that's those 2 pieces, that's the male and that's the female. This one here goes into your tab, and this one goes into the body of the wallet. And we need to have some quick drying glue. This is what I use. Quick drying just speeds up the process of making the wallet. You don't really need to use glue if you don't want to. You could just sew the wallet, but I find that in use the edges get really ratty if you don't glue them so that they're nicely firmly held, because they don't look nice later on. Some people use double-sided tape. Usually if the ones that you can sew through are not permanent, and the ones you can't sew through, which may be more permanent, might gum up your needle, but that's entirely up to you if you want to take that chance. I used one that wasn't specifically for sewing once and sewed through it, and I ended up with a big fat bill at the sewing machine shop. Cost me over $100 to get all the gunk cleaned out of it. It just completely seized it. So I always use the wash away tape or keep it out of the seams. And in this case, our seam is only 3mm 1/8 of an inch wide, so it's really not easy to keep it out of the stitching. Now for gluing the body pieces together, I use a different glue than this one because this one's kind of thick and gunky and very hard to spread over. For the body panel, I like to glue them, I like to cover the glue completely all over the body panel and then glue it. So I use the Eco Weld This leather glue that you can get here in Australia is another good one for that. Just something that's a bit more easy flowing to spread over the whole body piece is what you need there. You'll need some sort of marking pen. I'm going to use this Fiction pen. It's probably not the one I would really use if I was not doing this on the video, but hopefully with using this you'll be able to see where I'm marking and see what I'm doing. But otherwise something that comes off more readily and more suitable for a surface exterior area. And I have an old paintbrush, which is what I use to apply this glue. And when I am using this glue, I just spread it with a paddle pop stick, like this. So, there we have it. Okay, so now I'm going to glue these tab pieces together. I'm going to use some of this glue so it's quick drying. And because it's not a big surface area to cover. I'm the messiest gluer in the world, I'll admit it. Now this glue doesn't need on both sides, so that will do. Now try and get your edges as even as possible. And just give that a couple of minutes to dry, and then we shall go and stitch all the way around that tab. Okay, so now I'm going to put my machine stitch length at 3.4, and that's the stitch length I'm going to use throughout constructing this wallet. So now that we have top stitched around our tab, retrieve your two body panel pieces. Now on one of them I'm just going to mark the location of this strap placement, and that says do not cut out, but that means your cork. You can cut it out of the paper. That will just make it easier to mark where your tab is going to sit. Like so. I'm just going to draw that on. Like so. And grabbing a bit of this quick drying glue. Just going to add that here. And pop the tab in place. Doesn't matter which way at this point. Like that. So now while that's just drying there, I'm just going to add Eco Weld. I like to put this on and over the entire body. That way when it's glued together it acts as if it's one piece rather than having air holes underneath in between. So, excuse the look of this bottle, it's been around for a while. And I'm just going to sit that down to dry as well. Well, not completely dry, it just needs to get tacky, and then I will put the two pieces together. Okay, so now that my glue is tacky, I'm just going to glue these two pieces together. Now, make sure you line up your edges as nice and neat as you can, so that it looks good. Before I press that into place, I'm just going to check everything. When you're happy with how that is lined up, we need to just smooth it down and I like to stick something on top and some weight, just a little bit of weight, and just leave that to dry. And we'll just grab our panel A piece. Now I'm going to stick this together, these two of the pieces. I'm not going to use the Eco Weld this time. I'm just going to use my quick dry glue because this doesn't need to be one piece. It just needs to be held together. So we'll just like so. I'll just leave that to dry as well. So now we need to retrieve our ID panel and our ID pocket window vinyl, and we're just going to put some double-sided tape around the edge of that window, just back from the edge just a little tiny bit. And just center your vinyl over the top and press in place. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and top stitch all the way around the window. Okay, so first off I'm going to top stitch around my ID window. Stitch length for all my top stitching is 3.4. I'm just going to lock the stitches in. You could pull them to the back and knock them off if you wish. Again, just knocking that off. Just going to trim these threads so they don't get caught in my next bit of top stitching. So now I'm going to top stitch this curved bit. I just ended up pretty level with that there. And now top bit, top straight bit. Like that. Now top stitch the top of my panel A pieces. The two card slot A pieces. Card slots B lower piece. Card slots B upper piece. Now the welts. So now we need to install our snap. I just need to find things. This is the male one that goes into the body of the wallet. Just looking if one side of the tab looks better than the other to be on the outside. Like that. Now we need to install the button part. Alright, so now that that's there, we'll just need to make sure that we get the button part on there. So that goes in there, and that goes there. And it goes around like that. And yes, I have silver snaps and gold flakes in my cork. That's because I didn't have a gold snap and I didn't have silver flaked cork. So now we're going to make our zipper pocket. So retrieve your zipper pocket and your zipper tape. And if you haven't put stitches on each end, now is the time to do it. And we'll just grab some double-sided tape. You can glue if you prefer, but I prefer to use the tape. Just run the tape down each side of the zipper between the two stitching lines that you did earlier, or just a minute ago. Just a note about zipper pulls too. I like this one because it hangs down beside the zipper pocket later on. I have used ones that are more stiff and then they just sort of stick out straight like this, and then when you try to close your wallet they get in the way. So that's something to think about when you choose a zipper pull for your wallet. Now we're just going to put this over the top of the pocket, centering that left to right. And just make sure you get that nice and even in there. Press that to stick it down. And now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around that pocket window. Putting my zipper foot on, moving my needle over. My stitch length is my 3.4. Now stitching approximately 3 millimeters, 1/8 of an inch from the zipper window opening. Now stitch backwards and forwards across that zipper tape a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and secure. Like that. Like that. Okay, so now that I have stitched around my window, I'm just going to flip it over and I'm just going to prune this zipper tape, just the zipper tape, back to that previous first stitching we did, just to reduce the bulk in this area here when we fold the zipper pocket over and have to stitch the sides. The less zipper tape that we have, especially the teeth, to deal with, the better. Like that. Same on this side, just fold your cork or vinyl or whatever it is back out of the way and clip it right back to where that stitching is, but don't clip the stitching, just back to the stitching, like that. And now what we need to do is grab our glue, and we're going to run some glue around half of the pocket, in my case, because I only need it on one side, or all the way around if you need to have glue on both surfaces. I might just add a little bit there at the end of that zipper as well, just to double make sure that that's going to stay put and make it nice and firm. Spreading this around. Now I just fold it up in half and line up the edges. Now I don't leave these on very long, so they don't really leave a mark. Or if there's a slight mark, that tends to come out. And I kind of try and line that up for 3mm, 1/8 of an inch where I'm going to be stitching. So if there is a little mark, it'll be on the stitch line. You won't see this anyway, it's down in the bottom of your wallet. And the reason it's curved at the bottom is because we want to keep it out of the construction to reduce bulk. Make it easier to sew on a domestic. There. So now that that's had a chance to dry, we'll just remove these clips and head over to the sewing machine and stitch all the way around our zipper pocket. Put my normal foot back on. Like that. Okay, so now retrieving our ID panel, our panel A piece, the single layer piece if you have two glued together. We'll just set that piece away and use the single side only. And we need our ID panel card slots A layout guide. So what we will need to do now is we're going to fold this on the yellow line. We're going to, with the top stitching at the top, just going to place that on there just for a minute. Grab a pen. This will be hidden, it won't be seen at any point. So it doesn't matter what you mark this with, just so long you can see it. And then fold on the blue line. And draw another line, remove that. Now retrieve card slots A, your two pieces. We're going to start with this one, and we're just going to run a little bit of glue just along the bottom edge, just a tiny little bit. It's just, this one's just basically to baste it into place so it doesn't move when you stitch, so it stays in the right spot. And just line that up on the top line. And as you can see, my machine has eaten that end of the card slot. Never mind. Do the same with the second one. Just a little tiny bit of glue. And sit it on the bottom line. This end should just sit below the top one, so they're kind of sitting even and flush, ignoring my half missing piece there. Alright, well, we'll just let that dry for a minute. Okay, so now that that has dried enough for me to sew, I'm going to stitch along the bottom of each of these two card slots, 3mm, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Just back tacking at each end to make it stay put. Just fold that back to do the second side, second piece. Yeah, like that. So now that we have stitched our card slots A in place, retrieve your ID pocket panel, and what we're going to do is we're going to run some glue around, and then we're going to stick it down on top of our card pockets. Okay, so now retrieve the glue. Going to run a small amount around the edge. Grabbing my paddle pop stick, just smooth this out so it touches the edges, and the glue is about no more than 3mm, 1/8 of an inch wide. Like that. Now I just want to make sure we get these edges lined up down the bottom here. Like so. Sides. And now I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue onto the ends of those little pointy out bits of the card slots A's, like that. And we need to do these ones here as well. So I'll just fold that back for a minute and then it'll stick it down. Like that. So just going to add some clips on there for a few minutes. It's really only a matter of stick them on, count to 10 and take them back off. That's about all it takes with this glue. It's pretty good. I just find that the pressure just helps seal the deal. Now while that is gluing, we will grab our card slots B pieces and our card slots B layout guide and our panel A. This is the double one. Start by folding. This time I'm going to fold both pieces before I clip it on, just so it knows where to sit when I clip it on, like that. take those off. Retrieve these two upper pieces, and what we're going to do is add glue and place them down on there. That. Just press that down, and when that glue has set, we'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch the bottom of each of those card slot pieces. So now we're just going to stitch the bottom of these card slot pieces, the card slots B upper pieces. Hold that back. Do the second one. Like that. So now all we need to do is retrieve our card slots B lower piece, this piece, and we're going to run some glue along the bottom and the sides. Just going to line up the sides and the bottom. All edges are even. That. Now we just need to add some glue onto these top corner pieces, edges of our card slots pieces. And on this side it's just easier to flip it over to the wrong side and do it like from this side. Like so. And we'll just set that aside to dry. And while that's drying, we can retrieve our first card slot assembly and take off the clip. I'm going to draw a line in now so that you can see what I'm doing. So if you've got something that you can mark your cork with that won't be permanent, that's the best. Now if you have nothing to mark your cork like I have, you can simply fold along that line, along the first one to start with, clip that on there and then line that up so it's right next to that line, and then just clip that on there and stitch down beside your piece of paper, beside the layout guide, and that will help you get the placement and get your line straight. And then you can just simply stitch the second one right close to that first one. I hope that makes sense. Makes sense in my head. Alright, now we're going over to the sewing machine, stitching down, pivot, stitching back up. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to start at the bottom. Stitch up, pivot, stitch like right where that top stitching is, pivot, take a stitch and stitch back down again. Okay, starting at the bottom. Pivot, take a stitch and stitch back down the second line. so now that we have done that, we can set that aside for now. Retrieve this one again. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide our pockets in half. I'm just going to grab this and fold it in half to find the halfway point. I'm just going to draw a line. That gives me the center. So I'm going to start just on this side of that line down the bottom, and I'm going to stitch up. I'm going to pivot, take a stitch and stitch back down again. Okay, so starting at the bottom, I'm going to stitch close to the line but not on it, just a little bit to the right of it. Pivot, take a stitch, pivot, and now I'm going to stitch back down again. So the line I drew is in the middle about. Okay, now that we've done that, we're just going to set that one aside, and we're going to retrieve our body, prepared body piece and our ID pocket assembly. And what we're going to do is we're going to run some glue around the two sides and the bottom edge, that is the one away from the pockets. So this edge, those edges there, we're just going to run some glue around there, and then we're going to line up those edges and stick it down. So we want the card pockets opening towards the center of the wallet, and remember we're on the wrong side, not the exterior side. I need to line these raw edges up. Trying to keep my head out of the video while I line up these edges. Like that. Now what we need to do is retrieve two of our welt pieces. And retrieving our panel A piece, we're just going to lay that on there just to find the top of where that will sit. And just mark that, because that's where the top of our welt will go. So what I like to do is I like to lay my welts next to my thing so that I can run some glue down there, and then that will just flip over and go onto there, and same on this side. So that way I get the glue in the right side, on the right side. Like that. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to have a cuppa. Okay, now that we have done that, we need to take off the clips. Like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch down each side and along this side here where the tab is, and we're not going to top stitch this piece yet, only them three sides. Chung, chung, chung. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch around this here, leaving this top edge where this thing is untop stitched. I'm doing it from the right side because it will look better that way. Some machines look very similar on top and bottom, but usually the top looks nicer. that. Yeah. Okay, so now we need to retrieve our zipper pocket, and we're just going to decide now which side you want your zipper pull to open from. I'm going to have it on the left, so I'm just going to run a little bit of glue down the side of this welt. Grabbing the zipper pocket, just going to pop that on there, make the top edges even. And now that won't extend all the way down, don't worry about that for the moment, because we're just going to add the other welt on top of that. So grabbing your other two welts, I'll just place one over on this side. So we're just going to be putting it down this side, so add a little bit of glue. Lift that back off, line that up, add that clip back on there. Come here, take that back off, clamp that together, add a clip down the bottom here too. Like that. Now we're going to do this side. Like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the clips off and go and stitch down each two sides. So I just need to pull this out away from my body. Do the second one. Like so. So now that we have stitched that, retrieve the panel A card slots B assembly. And we're going to run some glue down this side of the welt. Like so. Now make sure your card pockets are opening towards the centre of your wallet. I'm just going to line up those edges. The welt does not go all the way to the bottom, don't worry about that. It's supposed to be that way, that's to reduce bulk in the bottom of your wallet. Make sure that welt's still lined up and it's not slipped away. Like that. Now we'll do the same on this side. Like that. And we'll leave that to dry. Okay, so now taking off the clip. So now we're just going to stitch from top to bottom to secure that in place. Okay, so now pulling this putty out of the way, I'm just going to stitch all the way from top to bottom, or bottom to top, whichever way you've placed it on your machine. Okay, so now that we have stitched those two sides, we need to finish our wallet. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue down this little short bit here along the bottom and that bit there, and I'm just going to put a dab of glue on the exterior side, just on the bottom of those two welts, just there. That'll just glue that everything to hold that zipper pocket so it doesn't move backwards and forwards, so it stays in the right place. Corners and sides. Now just looking in from this side, pull that zipper pocket until it is evenly placed, pulling out from each end. I'm just looking under there to make sure they're in the right even spot. And I'm just going to add a clip there to clip that bottom welt so it can dry and stay put, like so. Now line up these bottom edges, make sure they're nice and even. Now just wait a few minutes for this to dry, and then we can do our last final step. Okay, so now I'm going to take the clips off, and what we need to do is stitch down about 12 millimeters, half an inch from the bottom down the sides here and across the bottom. So now I'm going to stitch down side here from about half an inch, 12 millimeters up, and along the bottom. And that's it. We are done. Okay, so there we have it. We have finished our wallet and nice little coin purse here. And we have a pocket here, 3 card slots here, 3 card slots here, 1, 2, 3 there, an ID window there, and a pocket under here for your notes or receipts or whatever it is you want to stick under there. And that's it. There we have it. Our Edgy Essence wallet. Now it's up to you whether you want to edge coat your edges. I like to edge coat mine, so that is next on my list. Going to finish it off with some edge coating. Woohoo!